You were taught to be good, to be kind, patient, and understanding, to forgive endlessly and to help others even when it costs you. Society told you that goodness is noble, that virtue guarantees respect, love, and belonging. But what if that was the greatest illusion of all? What if your goodness has not been your strength, but your cage? You've seen it, haven't you? The quiet worker who sacrifices for everyone but is forgotten the moment he falters. The friend who listens to everyone's problems, only to be ignored when she finally needs help. The honest man who tells the truth and loses to the one who lies with charm. Goodness, when pure and unguarded, does not make you powerful. It makes you predictable. And in a world built on perception, predictability is a death sentence. Machiavelli understood something most people never will. Human beings don't reward virtue. They reward usefulness. They respect strength. And they fear loss. When you are too good, too available, too forgiving, you remove all three. You become harmless. And in the mind of the world, harmlessness is the same as irrelevance. To the naive, goodness feels like moral superiority. To the wise, it's often a mask for weakness, or worse, a failure to understand reality. He wrote that men will betray the good man if it benefits them, and flatter the cruel one if they fear him. Not because they are evil by nature, but because human nature bends to power, not purity. The good person operates under the illusion that morality is universal. The Machiavellian understands that morality is conditional, a tool used to justify actions after they've already served self-interest. Goodness is respected only when it's backed by strength. Otherwise, it's consumed. You have to see the world not as it should be, but as it is. And that shift alone separates the naive from the powerful. The naive think they can earn respect by being fair. The powerful know they must command it by creating the illusion of necessity. You don't gain loyalty through kindness. You gain it by making others realize that losing you would cost them. This is the first truth Machiavelli offers. To be good without power is to offer your virtue to the wolves. Think about your life, the moments when you felt used, when your silence was taken for consent, when your effort was expected, not appreciated. That wasn't bad luck. That was the tax of being good in a world that measures value through fear and advantage. When people sense that you seek harmony at any cost, they learn how to control you. They manipulate your guilt. They demand more, then call you selfish when you resist. Machiavelli would call that the perfect design of human politics, the weak disguised as the moral, preying on those who mistake compassion for duty. But here's the paradox. The world needs good people. Civilization cannot survive without them. Yet those same good people are often sacrificed for the comfort of the corrupt. Machiavelli didn't hate virtue. He understood its fragility. He saw that if you want to protect goodness, you must first protect yourself. And that requires strategy, not purity. He said, "It is not enough to appear good, one must also know when not to be." A dangerous truth, but one that separates survivors from martyrs. Because being purely good in a corrupt system is like walking into a chess game where everyone else is playing war. You can hold your moral ground, but you will lose your kingdom every time. Most people are not consciously evil. They simply act according to their needs. But the Machiavellian thinker understands that those needs will always outweigh loyalty. People respect you only as long as you are useful, feared, or admired. When you no longer provide any of those, their morality evaporates. This is not cynicism, it's realism. And the sooner you embrace it, the freer you become. Goodness must evolve from sentiment to weapon. It must be deliberate, not blind. That means learning to detach from the emotional addiction of being liked. It means allowing others to be uncomfortable when you assert boundaries. It means understanding that fairness and power are not enemies. They are allies only when you control both. You must become both the lion and the fox, feared enough to be respected, cunning enough to be safe, Otherwise, your goodness will be dismantled piece by piece until there's nothing left but resentment. The shocking cost of goodness is not rejection, it's invisibility. When you make yourself available to all, you become valuable to none. When you show mercy to everyone, people assume you have no claws. When you love without boundaries, you become the servant of those who know no gratitude. You believe you're choosing peace, but what you're really doing is erasing your own power. Machiavelli's world was not kind, but it was honest. He watched leaders rise not because they were loved, but because they understood human psychology. They created an image of strength that made betrayal unthinkable. They distributed their mercy strategically, never cheaply, and above all, they knew how to wield perception like a weapon, because perception is the currency of influence. So the question becomes, how do you remain good without being destroyed by your own goodness? The answer lies in learning to act, not react. Most good people live reactively, responding to guilt, to pressure, to manipulation. The Machiavellian learns to anticipate, to calculate, to give only when it strengthens position, not weakens it. This isn't cruelty, it's precision. Imagine two people, one endlessly kind, endlessly available, and another calm, controlled, offering kindness like a gift instead of a habit. Which one holds power? The second, because scarcity gives weight to every gesture. When you learn to make your kindness rare, your words carry value. When you learn to say no, your yes becomes sacred. This is how you transform goodness from a weakness into a strategy. Machiavelli would tell you that power and virtue must coexist, but power must come first. Without it, virtue is just decoration. People may praise it in your absence, but they will never follow it in your presence. You must first be unmovable, emotionally, mentally, strategically. Only then can you afford to be merciful. You've probably met people like this, those who radiate quiet authority. They rarely speak, but when they do, others listen. They're not cruel, yet no one dares to exploit them. Their strength doesn't come from aggression, but from clarity. They understand the cost of every word, every favor, every silence. They don't try to be liked. They make others feel the need to respect them. That is the Machiavellian paradox. True goodness cannot exist without power to protect it. To live this way, you must unlearn what you've been taught. Stop seeking validation from those who gain by keeping you small. Stop thinking that kindness must mean compliance. Stop believing that patience requires silence. The modern world praises empathy but feeds on dominance. If you want to remain whole, you must learn to navigate both. Ask yourself, how much of your exhaustion comes from trying to be seen as good rather than simply being effective? How many of your wounds were inflicted by those you tried to please? How many times did your understanding become someone else's excuse? Machiavelli would call that the tyranny of virtue, the invisible system that rewards obedience while mocking independence. You can break it only by mastering contrast, learning when to be firm, when to be silent, when to withdraw, when to strike. It's not about manipulation, it's about mastery. Manipulation seeks to control others. Mastery seeks to control yourself, and that self-control is what radiates authority. The powerful do not raise their voices. They lower the room's temperature. They do not beg. They choose. They do not explain. They decide, every action calculated, every kindness intentional. That's how you begin to transform from a person who hopes to be respected to one who commands it. From a person who fears being misunderstood to one who understands that being misunderstood is sometimes necessary. From a person who gives everything freely to one who knows that scarcity creates gravity. This is the evolution Machiavelli demands. Not the death of virtue, but its refinement. And when you finally understand this, you see that the cost of goodness was never moral. It was strategic. You paid it with your energy, your time, your peace. But you can choose to stop. You can choose to become both kind and cunning, compassionate and calculating. That is not betrayal of your humanity. That is its perfection, because in a world of wolves, only the wise shepherd survives. When you stop trying to be good, you begin to see clearly. The fog of morality fades, and what remains is the raw geometry of human behavior, cause and effect, power and dependence, fear and respect. Machiavelli called it the anatomy of power. To him, virtue without calculation was chaos. Good intentions alone were irrelevant. What mattered was results. What mattered was control. The second stage of your transformation begins when you accept that appearance always outweighs reality. This is one of Machiavelli's most unsettling truths, and one of his most precise. Men judge more by their eyes than by their hands, because everyone can see, but few can touch. The world does not reward substance, it rewards image, and this is why the good suffer, because they rely on purity instead of presentation. They expect truth to speak for itself, forgetting that silence is invisible. You must learn to master perception as if it were your second skin. It is not deceit, it is design. You cannot control the hearts of others, but you can control the shadows you cast upon them. People want to believe in symbols, in strength, in certainty, in leadership. If you do not provide that symbol, they will follow someone who does, even if it's a lie. That's how power works. It doesn't depend on being right, it depends on being believable. Machiavelli taught that a prince should always appear merciful, faithful, humane, religious, and upright. But he should be ready to act against all of them when necessity demands. The weak are destroyed by contradiction, the wise are defined by it. To command respect, you must become a paradox, good enough to seem safe, dangerous enough to be feared. That balance is the foundation of true control. Observe the people around you. Watch how easily they reveal themselves. The one who laughs too loudly at every joke is desperate to belong. The one who constantly seeks reassurance is a slave to approval. The one who boasts about loyalty often hides betrayal. Power doesn't reveal itself, it conceals itself. Machiavelli would tell you to hide your motives behind serenity, to move without announcing your steps, to make people guess your intentions. Because uncertainty breeds respect faster than affection ever will. To be liked is to be known. To be respected is to remain mysterious. The good fail because they crave understanding. They want others to get them, to see their heart, their effort, their sincerity, but in exposing all that, they lose leverage. People do not value what they fully understand, they exploit it. Mystery, not transparency, is the currency of respect. A Machiavellian mind never shows its full map. It allows glimpses, never directions. You can test this immediately. The next time you are in a conversation, resist the urge to fill the silence. Let others reveal their impatience. Observe what they do when uncertainty grows. You'll learn everything about their nature without speaking a word. The calmest one always wins, because calmness is not passive. It's a form of dominance. The ability to remain unmoved while others react is psychological warfare disguised as serenity. Machiavelli's genius was not cruelty. It was his understanding of necessity. He saw that people act from need, not principle. The same person who praises honesty will lie if truth costs them comfort. The one who preaches fairness will cheat when survival is at stake. And the one who loves you today will destroy you tomorrow if their status depends on it. He didn't say this to condemn humanity. He said it to prepare you. Once you accept that truth, you stop taking betrayal personally. You start anticipating it. That anticipation, the art of seeing human weakness before it manifests, is what separates the ruler from the ruled. The ruler knows that trust is never absolute. It's a contract renewed daily through relevance. You remain trusted only as long as you remain needed. So the wise make themselves indispensable. They never give all their value at once. They distribute it slowly, like medicine, just enough to heal, never enough to cure dependency. The Machiavellian gives others what they crave, but always ensures they crave him more. Look around your own life. How many people depend on you emotionally, professionally, spiritually? If the answer is none, you are replaceable. If the answer is too many, you are vulnerable. The balance of power is found in selective dependency. You must give just enough for others to rely on you, but not enough for them to control you. This is not manipulation. It is survival in a world governed by leverage. Love, loyalty, morality, they all obey the gravity of power. Machiavelli wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. Modern minds misunderstand this. Fear, in his sense, was not terror. It was respect maintained through consistent consequence. When people know that you do not tolerate betrayal, they think twice before crossing you. When they know your boundaries are real, they act with restraint. This is not cruelty, it's structure. Without it, your goodness becomes chaos. The mistake of the good is assuming that decency will inspire reciprocity. But reciprocity is a myth. People mirror strength, not kindness. They adapt to what you allow. When you remove consequences, you invite disrespect. When you forgive endlessly, you teach that pain has no price. And when you allow disrespect once, you set the stage for it to become habit. To reclaim respect, you must train others through precision, reward loyalty, punish deceit, ignore excuses, not emotionally, but surgically. That is Machiavellian discipline. Power, after all, is not about domination, it's about design. Every relationship you have, personal or professional, is a map of influence. Someone always holds more weight. Someone always decides first. The Machiavellian sees these dynamics instantly. He knows that control begins not in the words spoken, but in the silences between them. He doesn't argue, he orchestrates. He doesn't chase, he positions. He doesn't demand loyalty. He makes it the logical choice. To live like this, you must shift your center of gravity inward. Stop reacting to praise and criticism alike. Both are manipulations disguised as emotions. Praise tries to seduce your ego. Criticism tries to destabilize it. The Machiavellian remains untouched by both because he measures success not by opinion, but by outcome. The moment you stop seeking validation, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is the purest form of control. It may sound ruthless, but it's the only way to preserve integrity in a corrupt world. You cannot lead if you are emotionally exposed. You cannot protect virtue if you allow guilt to steer you. You cannot achieve balance if every insult provokes explanation. The powerful never explain. They observe, they calculate, they adapt. Then they act, once, decisively, without remorse. That's why they win, because they treat every emotional impulse as data, not destiny. Machiavelli wrote that a prince must learn to act like both man and beast, the fox to recognize traps, the lion to frighten wolves. This is the essence of balance. The fox represents intelligence, awareness, and adaptability, the mind that sees through deception. The lion represents courage, authority, and strength, the will to enforce boundaries. Most people are neither. They are sheep, pretending to be lambs of peace, oblivious to the fact that wolves dine on the gentle first. Becoming Machiavellian doesn't mean becoming cruel. It means seeing clearly. It means understanding that mercy, when misused, destroys both giver and receiver. That compassion, when misplaced, feeds entitlement. That silence, when prolonged, becomes consent. To live strategically is not to betray goodness. It's to protect it through wisdom. The greatest trap of all is emotional investment in perception. You must train yourself to separate identity from reaction. When someone disrespects you, the naive feel pain, the wise feel information. The naive want revenge. The wise adjust the game. The naive try to prove their worth. The wise withdraw their value. Control, at its core, is detachment from chaos. The less you need to respond, the more powerful you appear. This is how the world truly works. People obey those who control their own emotions. They follow calmness because calmness feels like certainty. They fear detachment because it's impossible to manipulate. And they respect those who can stay silent after being provoked, because silence, when deliberate, becomes thunder. Now look again at the cost of your past goodness. Every time you said yes when you wanted to say no, you paid with authority. Every time you explained yourself to someone who already decided not to understand you, you paid with dignity. Every time you gave forgiveness without consequence, you paid with peace. Add it up. The emotional tax of kindness without boundaries, that is the true currency of weakness, and you have spent enough. Machiavelli's hidden truth is this: the world doesn't punish good people, it consumes them, slowly, politely, with words like selfless, humble, and understanding. But every compliment hides expectation. Every expectation hides control. The only way to escape is to become strategically good, the kind of good that serves purpose, not vanity, the kind that preserves your energy instead of draining it, the kind that helps others, but never at the cost of yourself. To achieve that, you must internalize power as principle. You must understand that to be respected, you must first become selective. Selective with words, with time, with empathy, with forgiveness. The moment you stop giving indiscriminately, people will accuse you of arrogance. Let them. Because what they really mean is, you stopped being easy to use. And that's the highest compliment a Machiavellian can earn. The quiet strategist inside you already knows this truth. It has been whispering every time you've been taken for granted. It knows that strength is not cruelty, it's clarity. That control is not manipulation, it's alignment. That power is not evil, it's protection. The naive good man saves everyone and destroys himself. The wise one saves himself and inspires others to rise. The choice between those two is the difference between exhaustion and legacy. And when you finally learn to stop performing goodness, when your virtue becomes your weapon and your silence becomes your fortress, you will understand the true meaning of Machiavelli's philosophy. Not as darkness, but as discipline. Not as deceit, but as design, because in a world of shifting loyalties, the only constant power is the one you build within. This is how respect is born, not from fear of punishment, but from recognition of strength, not from loud declarations of morality, but from quiet mastery of self. When people realize they cannot move you, not with praise, not with guilt, not with provocation, they begin to orbit around your calmness. That is the final form of influence, when your stillness bends the behavior of others. And that, Machiavelli would say, is the art of power disguised as peace. The moment you stop seeking fairness, you begin to see how the world actually operates. Fairness is a fiction, a moral placebo invented to pacify the powerless. It exists in speeches, in prayers, in the illusions of those who mistake kindness for immunity. Machiavelli would laugh at the idea of fairness as a governing principle, because he knew what most cannot face. Men do not want justice, they want advantage. Every alliance, every promise, every smile, it all hides negotiation. And to survive within this truth, you must learn the language of advantage better than anyone else. Power, in its purest form, is not violence or dominance. It is control over perception. To control perception is to define reality itself. The weak describe the world as it is. The powerful describe the world as they want it to be, and others believe them. This is the difference between the servant and the strategist. When you master perception, you become the architect of the emotional weather around you. You decide who feels comfortable, who feels indebted, who feels uncertain. That is the invisible empire Machiavelli built his philosophy upon, not through cruelty, but through calibration. The first rule of the strategist is emotional distance. Never take sides too quickly. Never reveal your full reaction. The good rush to declare feelings, anger, loyalty, sympathy, believing that openness builds trust. But premature emotion is a confession of weakness. The one who reacts first loses control. The one who stays still dictates the tempo. Your silence should not be emptiness. It should be design. Let others fill the silence with their intentions. Their need to be understood will always betray them before you need to act. The second rule: learn to trade in psychological currency, not just moral ones. When Machiavelli served the Florentine Republic, he understood that most people are not ruled by principle. They are ruled by their self-image. They will do anything to maintain the illusion of importance. A wise leader gives them that illusion, but on his terms. He grants favor as a performance, never as a debt. He allows them to feel valued while keeping their dependence intact. You can apply this same structure in every relationship. Give recognition strategically. Withdraw attention deliberately. Never reward incompetence with comfort. The moment someone feels entitled to your goodness, you have lost leverage. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men forget more easily the death of their father than the loss of their inheritance." It's brutal, but it's true. Self-interest governs all behavior. People will betray ideals before they betray incentives. The Machiavellian mind accepts this not with bitterness, but with precision. It does not expect loyalty. It designs conditions where disloyalty becomes disadvantageous. It does not demand respect. It becomes too useful, too unpredictable, or too powerful to dismiss. That's why power endures only when it's managed, not trusted. Think about how this applies to your life. When you were too generous, people stopped appreciating your effort. When you forgave too easily, they stopped fearing your loss. When you gave endlessly, they assumed you had nothing better to give. The human mind equates scarcity with value. The same principle that governs gold, art, and influence applies to your energy. If it's always available, it's always undervalued. You don't have to become cruel to change that. You only have to become selective. To the Machiavellian, scarcity is not manipulation, it's respect for equilibrium. When you overextend kindness, you disrupt the balance of reciprocity. When you pull back, you re-establish it. Every interaction must serve either position or purpose. If it serves neither, it is waste. That's how the disciplined few separate themselves from the emotionally chaotic many. They understand that energy spent on persuasion is weaker than energy spent on positioning. Don't convince others to value you. Make it expensive not to. This is where emotional mastery transforms into strategy. Detachment is not the absence of feeling, it's the control of expression. A disciplined mind feels deeply but shows selectively. When you remain composed in chaos, you become an anchor in a world of drift. People will begin to rely on your stability, not because you begged for trust, but because you embodied certainty. This is the true Machiavellian paradox. Power often appears as calm, but make no mistake, calmness is not kindness, it is surveillance. It's the art of watching people reveal themselves without ever showing your own cards. Machiavelli advised rulers to keep their hands clean while others get them dirty. This doesn't mean cowardice. It means foresight. The wise never act directly when they can influence indirectly. Let others execute your will, believing it was their idea. Let them fight your wars while thinking they're defending their own interests. The highest form of power is invisibility. Most people fail not because they are weak, but because they are transparent. They explain too much. They justify every decision. They seek to prove their goodness to those committed to misunderstanding them. A strategist never explains. Explanation is a surrender of narrative. When you explain, you hand your opponent the script of your intentions. Instead, you must move in silence and let results speak the language of inevitability. The powerful are not loud, they are consistent. Machiavelli observed that fortune favors those who act with virtù, not morality, but effectiveness. To him, virtù was the ability to shape events through will, timing, and audacity. It was courage married to calculation, the naive wait for justice. The Machiavellian creates opportunity. The difference lies in action. You cannot think your way into power. You must move decisively when others hesitate. Yet every movement must be masked in reason. Appear reluctant when ambitious, appear generous when strategic, appear honest when persuading, appear humble when ascending, appear neutral when preparing to strike. That is the theater of power, the art of camouflage within character. To stop being merely good and start being formidable, you must rewire your understanding of virtue. Virtue without consequence is self-sabotage. The good believe their conscience protects them. The wise know that conscience must serve strategy. Mercy without structure collapses into chaos. Honesty without context becomes a weapon against yourself. Even love, when uncontrolled, becomes dependence. Every virtue has a threshold where it transforms into its opposite. Machiavelli's brilliance was in defining that threshold and teaching how to stay above it. There's a reason his ideas remain feared and quoted centuries later, because he exposed the operating system of human nature. He revealed what most religions and moral philosophies refuse to admit, that power is not inherently evil, it is neutral. Its morality depends on the hands that wield it. The same intellect that manipulates can also protect. The same cunning that deceives can also liberate. The difference lies in intent. But intent, Machiavelli would warn, is meaningless if not backed by capacity. Good hearts without strong hands change nothing. So ask yourself, what does your goodness achieve? Does it elevate you, or does it drain you? Does it command respect or demand forgiveness? Does it protect your boundaries or erode them? Because every act of goodness that weakens your position is not virtue, it's vanity. It's goodness used as a shield to avoid confrontation. Real virtue is not soft. It is sharp, decisive, and aware of its own limits. That awareness is your new power. You must begin to see your life as a court, a constant interplay of influence, reputation, and perception. Every word, every silence, every decision contributes to your authority or diminishes it. Machiavelli would tell you to study not people's intentions, but their incentives. The moral man asks, why would they do this? The strategist asks, what do they gain by doing this? The first stays confused. The second stays prepared. Once you master this lens, betrayal stops being shocking. Flattery stops being intoxicating. You start seeing behavior as patterns, not mysteries. People reveal their next move in every complaint, every compliment, every silence. When you learn to listen between words, you will never be blindsided again. The key is not to become paranoid, but precise. Paranoia wastes energy. Precision saves it. The mature Machiavellian mind carries paradoxes effortlessly. It can show warmth without attachment, kindness without submission, authority without arrogance, because it no longer plays the emotional lottery. It gives without expectation. It withdraws without guilt. It commands without noise. It doesn't need to dominate, because its self-control is domination enough. There's a profound peace in this approach. When you stop fighting for fairness, when you stop explaining your intentions, when you stop chasing understanding, you create space for mastery. You begin to notice how energy shifts in every room you enter, how attention follows certainty, how power flows to those who don't crave it. You become untouchable not by building walls, but by understanding the architecture of influence. This transformation is subtle, but irreversible. The same softness that once made you invisible now becomes your armor. The same restraint that once made you passive now becomes precision. The same empathy that once drained you now becomes insight. You stop reacting and start predicting. You stop trying to be liked and start shaping perception. You stop giving your peace away and start selling it for a price. And when people realize they can no longer manipulate you through guilt or flattery, they will call you cold. Let them, because what they call cold, Machiavelli would call awake. The ultimate paradox of this awakening is that, by embodying this dark wisdom, you become more capable of true goodness, not the kind that bends under pressure, but the kind that stands firm against corruption. You become a protector of balance, someone who can act decisively when others drown in hesitation. The Machiavellian mind does not eliminate morality. It purifies it through discipline. It asks, what good is your virtue if it cannot survive the world it lives in? You were never meant to be harmless. You were meant to be capable and choose restraint. That is the true definition of goodness, not weakness disguised as morality, but strength refined by wisdom. And when that balance is achieved, you will understand what Machiavelli truly meant when he said, "Fortune favors the bold." Boldness is not recklessness. It's calculated courage. It's the willingness to act without apology when the moment demands it. It's the awareness that your life is a negotiation, and your power, your perception, your presence, your silence is your leverage. This is the end of the illusion of goodness, and the beginning of strategic virtue, goodness with boundaries, morality with power, empathy with precision. You will no longer try to prove your worth. You will demonstrate it through scarcity. You will no longer hope for fairness. You will create balance through consequence, and you will no longer wait for respect. You will command it, quietly, unshakably, without needing to explain why. That is the Machiavellian form of enlightenment, cold clarity that breeds freedom, a mind sharpened by realism, not dulled by idealism, a soul disciplined enough to remain kind, but only to those who deserve it. Because when you finally understand the true cost of goodness, you will never again give it away for free. When a person begins to see the world through the eyes of power, they experience two things simultaneously: clarity and isolation. Clarity because illusions dissolve. You begin to see people's motives without the veil of moral language. Isolation because few are willing to look this truth in the face. Most people need the comfort of believing in goodness as protection. But you, now, have crossed that line. You no longer need comfort. You seek command. You no longer need fairness. You seek equilibrium. You no longer hope to be understood. You prefer to be unexplainable. This is the final evolution of the good person who has learned the laws of Machiavelli, to transform innocence into intelligence without losing integrity. Because goodness that survives must become intelligent, and intelligence, if it is to endure, must become moral on its own terms. The weak believe morality is inherited. The powerful know it must be chosen every day with precision. From this point onward, your morality becomes strategic. It serves life, not vanity. It protects peace, not reputation. You no longer act out of guilt. You act out of intent. You no longer seek to prove that you are good. You simply behave effectively, knowing that results matter more than perceptions. Machiavelli would say, "Men judge more by what they see than what they feel. Let them see what you decide to show." This final stage begins with the simplest yet hardest skill of all, self-command. You cannot rule a room until you rule yourself. The greatest form of power is emotional restraint, because emotion is the leash by which the world controls you. Fear, guilt, desire, anger. These are the currencies of manipulation. Whoever controls your reaction controls your reality, and the good are the easiest to control because they equate emotional honesty with moral purity. They think transparency makes them authentic. But transparency in a strategic world is exposure. Machiavelli would call this the first lesson of modern power. Learn to feel everything and reveal nothing. Because when people don't know your emotional baseline, they can't destabilize it. You become unreadable, and unreadable is untouchable. You will notice that when you stop reacting, the energy around you shifts. The manipulators retreat. Their tools no longer work. The opportunists grow uncomfortable. Their mirrors no longer reflect weakness. The genuine ones remain because only those anchored in truth can stand in your silence without fear. This is how the Machiavellian filters the world, not by confrontation, but by stillness. The next skill is controlled generosity. The naive give to prove goodness. The strategist gives to measure character. Every gift, every favor, every concession becomes an experiment. It reveals who takes with gratitude and who assumes ownership. The Machiavellian knows that generosity is not moral. It's diagnostic. You observe how people handle privilege. Those who misuse it are cut off without announcement. Those who respect it are drawn closer, but never too close. The most dangerous form of dependency is the one disguised as friendship. Controlled generosity also means you stop apologizing for your distance. Detachment is not coldness, it's control. You learn to protect your emotional economy. Every conversation costs attention. Every relationship costs time. Every act of compassion costs energy. You cannot afford to invest without return. This is not cruelty, it's mathematics. The same way a leader guards resources, you guard your focus. You choose where to bleed. You'll find that as you evolve, people will accuse you of arrogance, of being too distant, too quiet, or too calculating. They'll say it because they miss the version of you they could manipulate. Machiavelli faced the same accusations in his lifetime. They called him immoral, deceitful, dangerous. But history remembers him as the man who understood humanity without illusions. He wasn't teaching evil. He was teaching survival, and more than that, mastery. Now we reach the core paradox of Machiavelli's wisdom. To rule others, you must first rule perception. To rule perception, you must first rule reaction. And to rule reaction, you must first understand your own shadow. The shadow, a concept Jung later explored, is the sum of everything you repress: anger, ambition, pride, hunger for control. Machiavelli, centuries earlier, already understood it intuitively. He knew that a person who denies their shadow becomes a puppet to those who embrace theirs. The good man who suppresses his ambition will serve the ambitious. The kind woman who hides her anger will be ruled by those unashamed of cruelty. Power does not punish repression, it consumes it. The Machiavellian doesn't reject the shadow. He integrates it. He uses his ambition as fuel, not shame, his anger as boundary, not chaos. His desire for control as discipline, not tyranny. When you reconcile with your darker impulses, they stop owning you. That's when your calmness stops being an act. It becomes your nature. The next transformation is strategic silence. Most people talk to be heard. The powerful speak to be remembered. Every unnecessary word dilutes authority. The Machiavellian measures language like a weapon's aim, never wasted, always deliberate. Say less than necessary. And when you do speak, slow down. Silence before words creates gravity. It signals control. It unsettles those who expect immediate reaction. It forces them into your tempo. Remember, in every conversation, someone sets the rhythm. Make sure it's you. Silence also reveals who fears it. The insecure fill it with noise. The deceitful fill it with justification. The powerful let it breathe. In silence, truth surfaces because people expose themselves when the pressure of quiet becomes unbearable. If you can sit through another's discomfort without breaking it, you dominate the exchange without raising your voice. Machiavelli would say, this is not arrogance. It's architecture. You are designing how people experience you. Power is not a personality. It's a pattern. And you must maintain it even when you're tired, emotional, or tempted to break character. Because consistency builds myth, and myth builds influence. The third principle of strategic transformation is selective morality. This is where most people recoil, because they've been taught that morality must be universal. But Machiavelli's realism leaves no space for that illusion. Universal morality is a luxury of those who hold no real power. Those who lead, negotiate, and survive must adapt ethics to context. What is wrong in one arena may be necessary in another. Lying to protect your strategy is not the same as lying to destroy. Concealing information is not betrayal, it's boundary. Refusing to save someone who exploits you is not cruelty, it's equilibrium. The naive see morality as purity. The wise see it as precision, but precision demands discernment. You must constantly ask, who benefits from my goodness in this situation? If the answer is only the manipulator, the abuser, or the indifferent, your goodness is misplaced. Machiavelli never glorified deception. He glorified discernment, the courage to act for the greater order, even if it meant violating superficial ideals. He saw that lasting peace is often built on strategic conflict. The naive seek harmony, the wise construct it. This is where the transformation solidifies, when you stop asking for permission to protect yourself. You no longer feel guilty for saying no, for setting limits, for walking away. The good seek permission to withdraw. The powerful simply disappear. Your silence becomes statement. Your absence becomes consequence. You don't need to announce boundaries. You demonstrate them through action. Machiavelli would call this ruling through necessity. When people realize your limits are enforced by reality itself, not emotion, they adapt. Now you begin to operate from psychological altitude. You no longer engage in petty skirmishes. You let others argue while you observe the field. The more detached you become from individual reactions, the more you start to see patterns. You predict outcomes before they happen. You sense power dynamics shifting like weather. Who's gaining influence? Who's losing composure? Who's pretending? Most people are trapped in the details of conflict. The Machiavellian sees the geometry of control. From this altitude, compassion evolves. You stop trying to save everyone. You realize that mercy given to the unready is not love, it's sabotage. Real compassion is proportionate. You help those who help themselves. You invest in the capable, not the comfortable. You reward potential, not pity. The truly powerful are not cruel, they are selective. They understand that misplaced kindness breeds dependency, and dependency kills progress. Now we arrive at the practical application, the daily practice of power that transforms philosophy into behavior. These are not rules to memorize, they are reflexes to train. 1. Begin your day with detachment. Before engaging the world, set intention, review your objectives, not your emotions. Ask, what requires my attention today? What deserves it? What doesn't? The Machiavellian mind moves from purpose, not impulse. 2. Observe more than you announce. Study how people speak, not just what they say. Their words reveal their hunger. The one who flatters wants access. The one who criticizes wants control. The one who overshares seeks validation. The one who asks nothing may already be analyzing you. The moment you see people as patterns, not personalities, you regain peace. 3. Reward discretion, not noise. Give your energy to those who respect confidentiality. In every circle, loyalty is the rarest currency. Protect those who protect your absence. 4. Never negotiate from need. Machiavelli warned that desperation makes you transparent. You must never enter a deal, a friendship, or a conflict needing validation. The less you need, the more leverage you hold. Appear in control, even if you must fake it until it becomes reality, because in human dynamics, confidence is evidence. 5. Redefine goodness as balance. You are good when your strength benefits others without weakening you. You are kind when your compassion costs nothing essential. You are moral when your principles serve life, not when they destroy it. Goodness is no longer about self-sacrifice. It's about self-governance. 6. Learn the art of exit. Power lies not in confrontation, but in disengagement. When you can walk away, you shift the burden of persuasion to the other side. The Machiavellian knows when a battle no longer yields gain. Withdrawal, when timed correctly, is domination disguised as surrender. 7. Guard your reputation like a shadow. Your image is your currency. Cultivate it consciously. Speak less of your plans, more of your outcomes. Let rumors circulate. Never correct them directly. Mystery creates gravity. Gravity creates control. 8. Turn solitude into strength. Isolation, once feared, becomes your fortress. Solitude is where you sharpen clarity. Machiavelli knew that the thinker who walks alone is the one who leads the crowd later. When you live by these principles, a shift occurs. People treat you differently. Some fear you, some respect you, some quietly resent you, but all adjust to you, because power, once mastered, rewires social gravity. The naive chase acceptance. The Machiavellian becomes the reference point of behavior. Yet with this comes a burden, the loneliness of lucidity. You will see too much. You will recognize manipulation where others see friendship. You will detect deceit behind smiles. You will notice how virtue is often weaponized by the weak. Do not let this harden you. Let it educate you. You are not here to destroy faith in humanity, only illusions about it. At this point, your goodness has evolved beyond morality into mastery. You've learned that to be truly kind, you must first be strong. That to be strong, you must first be strategic. And that strategy, without conscience, collapses into tyranny. But conscience without strategy collapses into martyrdom. You have chosen the narrow path between both, power with purpose. Machiavelli would look upon such transformation and nod in approval. Not because you became ruthless, but because you became real. Because you stopped confusing morality with weakness. Because you learned that peace built on illusion is no peace at all. True harmony is forged through conflict mastered, not avoided. So now, you live differently. You walk slower, observe deeper, speak less. You measure your yes like gold and your silence like a blade. You no longer try to be liked. You aim to be understood by yourself and respected by others. You understand that every interaction is negotiation, and you never walk into one unarmed again. In the end, Machiavelli's hidden truth is not darkness, it's discipline. It's the refusal to be naive in a world that feeds on the naive. It's the commitment to protect your energy, your dignity, and your peace with the same precision others protect their advantage. It's realizing that the true cost of goodness was never your morality, it was your unawareness. And now that you see, you cannot unsee. You are no longer the good person begging for validation. You are the strategist cloaked in calm. You are no longer the servant of ideals that devour you. You are the architect of your own order. You have become what Machiavelli called the wise prince, one who understands that to lead a life of peace, one must first learn the laws of war. And when you finally do, the world no longer drains your energy. It bends to your presence, silently, inevitably, respectfully.